welcome to Soul Streams.
Welcome, welcome.
We are here for Leo season, which begins Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Ricky, it's so good to be here with you and everyone that's joining, whatever time and space and place you're in.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about this. Thank you. I always love these conversations. They're fun. You never know what you're going to get. And you do know, though, you'll get some juicy goodness. You'll get some good feedback and some intuitive energy to kind of guide you through the season.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm always surprised by what comes through, which is one of the reasons why we keep coming back to do it, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly.
You and I, before we got on here to record, we were talking about how interesting it is that the Venus-Mars square, which is happening Wednesday, July 23rd, we really feel like is setting the stage for this whole season.
Yeah,
And so I don't know if it's better to start with that or if we want to talk a little Leo first, but I'm so drawn to the Venus-Mars
I
square
know.
that I almost just can't stop from diving right into it.
I know, I feel like as we go through the season, I think we're going to talk about a lot of these Leo themes.
Yeah.
But I really do feel the season is initiated with this Venus Mars square.
Mhm.
And this again is happening as well with the North and the South node are involved in this little dance.
Yeah.
Um, Mars will be conjunct the South node, and will Venus will be squaring that North and South node. And for one, Venus and Mars having their last quarter square together, because this is a cycle that they began back in February of 2024. That's when the conjunction happened in Aquarius. So now we're at that last quarter square, which means we're finishing this journey. We're coming to some level of finishing. It's going to take a little bit longer before their conjunction happens again, but this time the nodes are involved for me. And so there's something about this that I think is really, really interesting. Because I always say, like, when the North and the South node get involved, it amplifies the dance now. And there is this undertone of our past is definitely on the table as far as our past habits, our past patterns, our past choices, our past decisions. Some level of familiarity could be on the table, right?
Mm.
Um, And I kind of feel like Venus in Gemini is not the type of person that likes familiarity per se, from the perspective that Venus in Gemini wants to be stimulated here. She wants some fun. She wants to flirt. She wants to go. It's summer. It's nice outside, right? I don't think the idea of like familiarity for her right now is exciting and stimulating for her. She might get bored and be like, okay, on to the next. And I just think it's unique as we start the season. That what's going to unfold is as they have their square, shortly thereafter, they're going to enter cardinal signs. And that's going to set the tone and the pace for the rest of the season, because they're both going to have their squares and their oppositions to Saturn and Neptune. They're going to have their dances with Pluto. And I feel like it really does, like you said, set the tone. And Mars, as the season goes on, is going to kind of be at the beck and call to Venus. And so Venus is kind of like she's holding the reins this. I think she's got the whip. And so I think we should all be listening to what Venus has to say. I'm just teasing, but yeah, just to get us
No,
started.
no, no. I think it's great because we oftentimes think about Venus as being, oh, that's where, so Mars is sharp, Venus is softer, Venus is receptive, Venus is, where we calm down and things are pretty and they feel all put together. And I'm not negating those things at all, right? Venusian energy really does bring that. But I think that we don't see the wholeness of the Venus archetype when we only look at that side.
Yeah,
Venus knows how to hold its own.
yeah,
And especially in a square like this, a last quarter square, I envision oftentimes Venus and Mars as dancing partners.
yeah,
And dancing partners, they don't even always have to like each other to dance well together. And sometimes they like each other a lot and then they can't dance well together. So there's this interesting sort of interplay of who's holding what position. And if it's a square, imagine it's a move and a dance maybe that's not so easy. Maybe someone has to you have to be in the right space to move around each other or
yep,
else, you actually ram into each other or there's some sort of awkward placement here. I
yeah,
think Venus is holding her own just as strong. And when Mars moves into Libra, which doesn't happen until August 6th, but that's coming up soon,
Yeah.
then Venus rules Mars. So it's like this is like the pre-transition where they're
Yeah.
working something out and then the whole game's going to change. But I like to sort of challenge myself to say, what does that mean for me in my life? Or you and yours, Ricky, or anybody listening to
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
What do these things represent in us? And I think in some ways, it's interesting that Venus and Mars both have to do with desire in their own way. And
Totally.
and I've heard you talk, recently about how this brings up choices. What are we choosing? How have we been choosing? And our choices come from our desires most of the time, right? Or
Yeah.
perhaps from, our desire to keep ourselves safety, which is still, as you heard me say, a word desire. So
Yeah.
what am I going after? I sometimes think about too, if Mars is how I give it and Venus can be how I take it, those are interesting things to play around with as well. What am I
Yeah.
letting in? Am I being so Marsy that there's not room for any information or any ideas or opinions to come in? There's a lot to play around with here, but how we make the choices,
Key.
key, and to not oversimplify them. And I'm not I rarely say let's complexify something, but in this case, I think it's important because when we simplify, we don't allow the wholeness of all the different feelings or all the different parts we have inside. And I think what's really important here is to actually honor the inherent conflict that we have in life all the time because we have different parts of us that want different things. Like, for example, I'll use something in myself, right? I can love my mom and want to support her at the same time that another part of me is very frustrated by something that happened in the past and wants to kind of, kick her in the shins, right? Those
Yeah.
two things can exist in me. And I think this Venus Mars square is helping us understand that that's okay. That doesn't have to be a problem. And in fact, your dance can be more passionate, more dynamic, and actually more
Yeah.
filled with life when you make room for all those things.
Totally. The other thing I was just thinking about when we were saying about choices
Yeah.
that I think about this is that why are we doing what we're doing?
Mm.
And there's something to me with Gemini energy in general that, if not kept in check, can become very scattered. And always when we're dealing with Gemini, I always encourage us to get to the root of why we're doing what we're doing. Why are we learning what we're learning? What is the meaning behind the desire? Like, why is it that I'm desiring? Like, where is this coming from? And I think what's really unique is that having Mars in Virgo, there's something really cool because Venus and Gemini is going to have this natural desire for more. Like, I want to do this. I want to go here. There's this natural desire to either go learn more, go study more. I want to go do this. There's something pushing Venus out into the world. This curiosity within Venus now that she's in Gemini. But what's happening is Mars and Virgo's like, hold up, I can't do this right now. There's too much going on in here. Like, I need to take a minute to process everything that you're doing. Venus, calm down. And what's happening is there's something about this tension that could be happening here, which is not saying that one is right over the other, but we need to find an integration point. And that integration point comes in when we can find those whys. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is this adding towards something towards my future? Is this going to assist in the version of myself I wish to become or that I'm in the process of becoming? The other thing that I thought was unique about this square is that it is a last quarter square. And Dane Rougeard would call this the crisis in consciousness or the crisis in our beliefs. So at some level, there's going to be an opportunity or an invitation for us to assess and evaluate why we are potentially thinking about certain things or what our perceptions are of certain things and how those could be influencing our choices and decisions. Like, do you find yourself automatically running into relationships after a relationship ends? Do you find yourself having this pattern that is showing up with Mars in the South Node? It's a repeating choice that you're making. Why do you keep doing the same thing that you're doing? And I feel like Venus is trying to open us up to be like, okay, the system's got to change here. Something needs to shift. And I feel, ironically, knowing that they're both Mercury and Mercury ruled
Yeah.
signs. Mercury is retrograde in Leo. And this just makes me feel like it's an amazing opportunity for those that are willing to discover their own inner roar. Like, find that line within yourself once again. And maybe you become disconnected from it, or maybe it's been disempowered, or maybe you've been working on empowering it for the past year and a couple of months since February of last year when the conjunction started. Like, maybe we're here now, and it's this time for you to really locate and harness this inner power inside of yourself, and break free from any of the limiting belief systems that you may have, or anything that's blocking you from taking action, whatever it may be. Um, and I just think that points to that North Node in Pisces, which is having more unconditional love, having more space within you. And maybe it's because you've been too hard on yourself. I mean, you could totally see it with Mars and Virgo and the South Node in Virgo.
Yeah, because sometimes the patterns with that, with Mars in Virgo conjunct the South Node, are those patterns of self-cruelty. I'm going to say, like, and many of us have it, right? I don't do it good enough, right? I'm never up to the standards, or the
Mhm.
automatic sort of belief that somebody's not going to like what I do. It's not going to work out. There's going to be something wrong with it. Those are some of the defaults in there. And so again, it's not to make that a problem. It's how much can we love those parts that do those things for safety, so we
Yeah,
can perhaps make room to make a different choice. Because here's the thing, if I don't know what I'm doing, it's very difficult to make a good decision
it,
for me, right?
totally.
So that's
Yeah,
where I feel like part of that beautiful part of that Virgo, though, is to bring the accuracy and the discernment so we can
yeah,
actually see and recognize and feel what's happening. Another word that came
totally.
came to me is, and this is so nice on the heels of the new moon in Leo, right? Because we just talked
Yeah,
about how both that Venus and Mars, at least when they're in that square on the 23rd, both ruled by that Mercury that is retrograde in Leo. And then that Mercury is not too far, it's a little wide, but it's still conjunct the new moon that's coming afterward.
yeah,
And so
yep,
this space to have differentiation of, wait a second, despite what I used to think about myself or my old patterns, or how perhaps I have introjected other people's ideas or things on myself, one of the beautiful things about Leo is that point of really being able to distinguish, this is me. And I
yeah,
think that is one of the things that this square is wrestling around with.
a
But
100%.
how else would you find it if you didn't get in some of the sticky spaces? And that's why I always say we're so quick to want to get out of uncomfortability, but uncomfortability is the doorway to the
Totally.
space of finding more myself. Conflict is a thumbs up good thing. We just need to learn how to be with it and work through it in healthy ways.
Ooh, I just got chills. You just gave me chills. That was good. Sorry, I just got chills as you just said that. I felt it in my body because I feel like that's such a thing that we all need to embrace more of. I always say, when you see the tower in the tarot, hug the tower, welcome it, invite it, say hello, welcome the uncomfortable.
That's the
There's
Mars card.
Yeah, and it's what's so there's a book that I love, I think it's called Welcoming Uncertainty from Pema Chodron or something like that, and she talks about how important it is for us to embrace uncertainty. And there's something about this that I think that's where change can really happen. Um, and I just think it's important. I think this is and like you said, the new moon comes literally almost right after the square. And so
Yep.
the energy of the square, I don't think is going to go away the first. You're going to feel this energy for the first week of Leo season. It's definitely going to be prominent. Um, and so definitely look in your own individual charts to see where Gemini is, and where Virgo is. And if you have any placements around that 20-ish degree marker of these signs, you may feel this energy a little bit more intensely. You might feel this. It might be very active for you right now, depending on where this is in your chart. What I find interesting as you were getting into Mercury with the new moon is on this new moon talking about the opportunity and invitation to get uncomfortable. Pluto will be in this new moon. And
Yes.
so I feel like this is
Always uncomfortability comes with that territory,
a
right?
perfectly timed Pluto transit.
Yeah.
Um, and so it does feel like if we need a little bit of if we need a little push to lean into what Leo is asking of us, this new moon is a very, very exciting opportunity to do it. Let me take that back. It might not be as exciting as you think it is in the moment, but it will be exciting as time progresses if you lean into that uncertainty. Because uncertainty is not always exciting for some people. I get it. And
True,
there's
true.
so there's something about this that can be difficult. And Pluto, I don't want to say it, yeah, almost every Pluto transit is going to require some level of a little internal, like uncomfortable feeling that just makes you feel a little different on the inside. And you got to allow yourself to embrace a little bit of those difficult feelings, whatever may surface with Pluto. Um, and I just think coming back to that Venus and Mars and coming into that new moon, I think Pluto is going to be actually the gift. I really do. I think it's going to be a big gift for us, especially for those who are stuck.
And if just to give us the dates, so this new moon will be Thursday, July 24th,
Yeah.
12:11 p.m. Pacific time, 2 degrees Leo, 9 minutes. And yes, the new moon, which is always a conjunction of the sun and the moon, if anyone didn't know,
Yeah.
that's when they come back together and they meet in the sky. And so we'll be opposing Pluto. Also, trine Saturn and Neptune that are both retrograde in Aries. And Saturn and Neptune right now in Aries are ruled by Mars. So we still, every time we have something happen with Saturn and Neptune, the
Yeah.
ruler is Mars. So again, there's some of these,
These themes.
yeah, these repeating themes where like we're not getting away from that space. The other thing is this new moon also is sextile Uranus, and so there's I see this as, I agree with you, Ricky, on Pluto really being, I think, the key, being open not just to the uncertainty, but being open to sort of the raw space that happens through change, right? That thing with Pluto, it's like we sometimes want to make it sound a little nicer, like, oh, it's gonna be transformation like all butterflies or something. But the truth is that there is a period of time that's like a crucible with that energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that this is part of it, but I welcome it because I know in my own personal life, there's been a lot of stuff I've been dancing on the edge of doing
Yeah.
differently, and I feel like somehow this is an invitation to say, okay, you can just let it go, right? You can
Yeah.
just fully let it go.
Totally. Um, I think we need to remove our perception of the sugarcoating of Pluto in the context of these transits. I really do, because
Yes.
honestly, after me, I'm speaking from personal experience. I've been through a lot with Pluto, and it has changed my perspective. And I don't villainize it. I don't. But that we need to be realistic with it as well, because if we're not realistic with the potential of the transit, we can actually miss the mark of the opportunity what Pluto can bring to the table. And so, being that this is a new moon in Leo as well, like this is an incredibly advantageous time to really push the limits with something, or push yourself outside of what is entirely uncomfortable, to be bold, to be courageous like the lion really is. And maybe it's that time to launch something out there, to push something out there, to share something out there, to allow yourself to be seen and heard. Something like this could totally be brewing inside of people, where if it's in a relationship and you need to let your voice be heard, and be like, I need to have the difficult conversation about this. One of the things I was going to bring up is that this specific new moon is in the shadow of distraction. This was Gene Key 56. It's the
Mm.
shadow of distraction. And what happens is the shadow of distraction talks about how we as human beings distract ourselves with the physical world and external stimulation and validation. How are we distracting ourselves every day with with the external need to be validated, to be stimulated, and how we are avoiding listening to the inner part of who we really are? There's something about this that is telling me, especially with Venus and Gemini here as well. One of the shadow elements of Venus and Gemini can be incredibly scattered and have no idea what it's doing. This could be ideas all over the place. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to read this. I want to go here. I want to go over here. But there's no purpose. And Those are all distractions from what the deeper rooted truth that is available to us in any moment. And what happens is when we're able to remove the distractions of the external need to be validated or stimulated, we actually are able to access our most creative self so that we can express from our heart, so that we could eliminate the external drama, the TV shows, the Netflix, the blah, whatever it may be. It's all noise. It's all distracting us. And one of the things that I want to bring to the table, this is a layer deeper, and you and I started to get a little bit into different yogic practices and whatnot. The ultimate distraction that I always talk about is our five senses.
Mm.
And what happens is our senses can be utilized to help us understand the deeper sense of who we are, or can be used to distract us in the material world. And what's happening is that this is an opportunity for us to turn our senses inward.
Mm.
So we could get to know the inner part of who we are, get to know our heart, get to know our creative self, get to know that inner you, and then create that, share that, put that out into the world. And that's what Leo can do magically when it access the right gifts. Um, and recognizing that you matter. You matter. That not the ego part of us, it's the deeper part of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we could even say, I mean, a shout out for the ego. We can say we all need a solid self-image. We all need an ego.
Totally.
And for some of us that needs to be stabilized. For some of us we need more of that. So part of this is knowing yourself and what the individual call is to you. But yes, I think we could say that there's no question with Leo that it's back to the heart, it's back to the center. And so if
Yeah.
you have spent a lot of your time on the outside looking in, if you've spent a lot of time sort of, observing and watching and sort of, being more concerned with, I would say, the things outside, I think this things may happen. You may actually manifest something outside that pushes you back inside.
Ooh, yeah, no, I love how you just said that. One of the things that I was gonna say is the city, which is the highest form of expression, is called intoxication. And I really think this is a unique play on words because the whole idea is about becoming metaphorically intoxicated or drunk
Oh,
on you, your life, and God, the universe source within yourself. It's becoming so ecstatic with what is going on inside of you that you just feel like you're drunk and high 24/7 because you're so happy internally. Like there's this, it's this intoxication with yourself of who you are. And this isn't at a unhealthy narcissistic self-image. This is about a deeper sense of feeling like you're a conduit and God is creating through you.
yeah, I feel like it's that beautiful space of Leo, which is actually not just the creative self-expression, but feeling yourself as the creativity. Do you know, like
Yeah.
there's something like you just become which we all are all part of inherently, but there's an experience, I think, of I am part of the creativity of life, and there's a joyfulness to that.
Yeah. How cool is that? Like how exciting if you just sit with that and you just like contemplate that and feel that in your body. That's radiance.
Yeah, I'm looking at I haven't read this out loud yet to myself, even fully.
Oh,
The
I'm excited.
our
The Chandra symbol.
genre symbol, yeah, for this new moon. So at 2 degrees Leo, 9 minutes, I'm rounding up to 3 degrees Leo. It's a rickshaw, and it says hyperactive. Oh, Ricky, this is good. Engrossed in sensations. You just said the five senses. We love when these weird little like moments of
Yeah.
synchronicity hit where I like, yeah. And then it says, listen, absolutely fascinated by the ins and outs of everything, training
Yeah.
yourself arduously to become completely present in the action. But it also says, insisting upon getting it right, aiming for spirit and flesh to merge,
Yeah.
knowing how to do it and feeling sharply motivated. However, the little self does get carried away with the literal outward experiences so very easily. You
Yeah.
must battle to harness your powers and to pull yourself away from random delight. It is quite a journey with one great thing going for yourself. You
Yeah.
just know that you can do anything you set your mind to, and you are correct. How interesting is that with that? Those are very nicely aligned. So this
Yes.
thing that we talk about so many times, but Leo and I got a Moon Mars conjunction in Leo. So I'm hands up all
Yeah.
day, raising my hand for this, saying that the reliance on, am I being loved? Are people liking my stuff? Am I appreciated? Am I significant? Um, all of that stuff comes with the territory. But when you can really identify the things that really make you happy, when you're just doing the things that feel like it's you, it really is true that the people are magnetized to it. You don't, Leo doesn't have to work so hard as they think they have to work. You just
Mm-mm.
need, when you're in love with what you do, it is inspirational to others. And I think this energy, especially with, I mean, the opposition to Pluto, but also the trines to Saturn and
And
to
Neptune.
Neptune, there's this flow. It's almost like and a sextile to Uranus, right? It's like the universe basically saying, if you will commit to doing and being you, we will make that bigger, broader,
Yeah.
better, than you imagined it to be. And this brings to me this point where you use the word intoxication, but there is like, yeah, that ecstasy of simply just being alive, being myself. But I'm going to say that's an easy thing to say,
So, hmm
and we all have so many layers and things and security and safety measures around why we can and can't do these things. I think this is asking to let us be a little more unedited. Let us be a little bit more in the moment, even at the risk that I might totally bomb it. You people might hate what I do. Everybody won't
yeah.
love me. But the thing is that having people like something I do that's just a performance is never going to bring that ecstasy, Ricky, that you talked about. Ever, ever, ever.
Yeah.
Only being somehow being truly in and with myself in combination with whatever you want to call the collective energy, the universe, source, God, that
Yeah.
is where it happens. So there's something super, it's almost, it makes me think of the sun tarot card, right?
Yeah.
Usually this a naked little person because they're like totally like they're naked in their like a deity. It's
Yes.
the inner divinity is not covered. There's not a cloak. There's no dog and pony show. It's simply there's the radiance of the person or of the
Yeah.
being is just coming through. And that's what I think is really being,
hundred
there's an
percent.
opportunity if you want more of that.
A billion percent. I love what you said. And it's not a performance. It is that radiance of being, which is what you were saying. And I love that. And I think I could totally see, like you said, the sun card. What would that look like? And it's not, like you said, going to be easy. And it's not necessarily a walk in the park for many people, which is why I think Pluto's involved in this equation, because it's the wave is available for us, for those of us that are willing to lean into what Pluto is asking of us to do.
But something's got to
And
die. Something has to
is some
die.
is there some part of us that must go? And it could be our perception of ourselves. It could be letting go of other people's judgments of us, like no longer caring about what other people think. A level of, like you said, a death needs to happen. And this is an internal death, I feel like an internal something inside of us that is not allowing us to fully embrace that radiance, to fully shine bright. So I love that. I think that's a beautiful new moon, and I always love when the energies kind of coalesce
I know.
together.
It's fun.
Um, yeah,
But I think too, with with Pluto being involved, so oftentimes, especially with an opposition, Pluto helps us see where there's corruption, right? Mirrors back. And so this is the thing, like it's like it makes me think if the sun was pure gold, which that is its associated metal, what if
yeah,
somehow this is like revealing where, I don't know, this is some super cheap metal that turns your finger green and makes you sick. Like there's something around that energy of how do you really want that? Because oftentimes in
yeah,
our lives that is what we settle for. It's not that I'm not making, again, no problem with it. We do what we do, but you deserve something that is more pure, and you deserve more access to your pure self. And I
yeah,
think that the transits this season, it's interesting because then just, shortly after that on July 30th, Wednesday, July 30th, Venus enters Cancer and Chiron turns retrograde, which I think
Yeah.
now all of a sudden it's like we get a little breathing room. And I'm saying there are transits in between. The moon's doing things, pretty much every day. But between
Yeah.
the 24th and the 30th, I think we get kind of a little breather. It's like almost like
Yeah.
the new moon gets to settle in. Whatever we initiate, whatever intentions we put out there, whatever seed is planted, it's like you get a little bit of growing space.
Hmm. Totally. I personally am super excited for Venus entering Cancer.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't get me wrong, I love Venus and Gemini. I have Venus and Gemini. So
I have
I
Venus
could
in Cancer, so we're gonna
we have the best of both worlds. Um,
Hmm.
but I there's something about Venus and Cancer coming in, knowing the energy that we're embracing, that we're playing with right now. I think Venus and Cancer is perfectly timed. Um, and so I feel like coming out of that new moon, there's no better way to nurture these seeds than to nurture you. And I feel like there's something about this where it's almost like it's the best way to allow for the ideas or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest or whatever your goals may be. This is like level one of like, okay, I gotta water myself. I gotta take care of myself. This is like my time to do me. I gotta like whatever that means. So whatever your goals are, this is the time for you to take care of yourself. um, and make sure that you are giving to you what you need to continue to sustain and be consistent with what you're doing. Like whatever it is that you want to do for yourself, you got to take care of yourself. Um, because I find that many times when we see Venus in Cancer, it's very easy for us to think about how can I take care of you? How can I do this for you? How can I do that for this person? And I think that's not a bad thing, but we need to be able to make sure that we're taking care of us first. Like we have to make sure all of my cups are good and they're full throughout the season so that I could do that for other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is then that's Venus moving from, I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, but moving from a mutable sign to a cardinal sign, which speaks to kind of starting something new, and moving from a yang sign, Gemini, to a yin sign. So again, there is definitely something about it's still initiating, right? We always forget this about
Yeah,
Cancer is very active. It's busy and,
100%.
puttering around and trying to take care of everything. But the initiation is trying to happen on the inside so that we can really, one of the things that Dane Ruger would talk about around that Cancer energy, especially the IC and the chart at the bottom, is to become a well integrated personality, right? Which is literally, getting to know all of our parts in our inner world, maybe checking in and saying, hey, is everybody okay in there today?
Yeah.
Says, hey, is everybody out there okay? What about everybody in here?
Yep.
And so I
Totally.
think this offers that space to do this more. And also, Venus in Cancer oftentimes makes us, at least for me, there's a reconsideration around or a rethinking when it moves into the sign about home and family and belonging. Where do I belong?
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
Because you're talking about the nurturing self, right? Or need to take care of ourselves, or just like if we were to plant a new plant at the new moon, we now need to water it and feed it. But there's
Exactly.
something about what are the best conditions for me to actually feel,
Grow this.
yeah, because right. I mean, I think about this oftentimes that if I'm going to take some big risks in my life and go after things that are important to me, at least me personally, need to know on some level that I've got a place that I belong. There's got to be something sort of counterbalance to where it feels safe or where I feel like there is a place I can go back to. And so I think when Venus is in Cancer, we can think about what does that mean for us. And it doesn't always mean people sitting home. Some people feel this energy on a plane going around the world. It's sort of
Yeah.
where is it for you? Because home is where we recharge, right? Home is where we sort of, when you're home, you know where things are. There's a certain sense of like you're in your own domain. So what does it mean for all of us to come back to our own domain?
Hmm.
What is your domain? Some of us are very disconnected from what that means for ourselves.
Totally. I think it's a great perspective. I know so many people that I've talked with in the past month, at a literal sense, are having questions about moving.
Ah,
And where do I go? What do I do? I don't know what this looks like. I don't know if should I get this house? Should I do that? Should I do a house? Should I do it? All of the questions you can imagine. I feel like Venus and Cancer can give us the opportunity to find some answers to those questions if we are contemplating a move or something like this. And the other thing, talking about that idea of belonging, you and I talked a lot about in Jupiter and Cancer,
yeah.
about this idea of what does it feel like to belong? What does it feel like to feel safe? What does it feel like to feel comfortable? As you and I were just talking about getting uncomfortable, Venus and Cancer so bad wants to feel safe and comfortable. Um, and sometimes that comfortability is not physical. It is that internal sense of safety and security. And at the same token, I love how you brought up a little bit of the family energy as well, because I think there is a lot of momentum astrologically that I think is helping us understand family things, family dynamics, ancestral things. Um, it could be as subtle as conversations, it could be dreams, it could be a literal family changes are happening, the family dynamics are adjusting or changing. Um, and that could feel uncomfortable to Venus and Cancer if she just wants everyone to come together and everyone to belong. Um, and it's a part of these changes. And because Venus is in Cancer, I just want to remind us that that means she's going to have some dances with Aries, because
Right.
Aries is a natural square. So we're going to have Saturn and we're going to have Neptune that are going to be hanging out with this Neptune for a little bit. And I mean, hanging out with this Venus, my apologies.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is going to maybe stress Venus out a little bit. It may give her a little stress, especially in Cancer. So,
Well, but let's talk about a little bit of stress because, well, one, I'm personally involved in this since my Venus is 0 degrees Cancer, so this will be happening on mine. But I'm going to say that for everybody collectively, and of course, you need to look at your own chart to really know kind of the most personal implications. But this idea of Neptune and Saturn squaring Venus, something is up with relationships, how we relate, who we relate with, who we, back to the choice thing, who we choose. Um,
yeah,
one of the things about Venus in Cancer, and this is true for all humans, but especially with Venus in Cancer energy, there's a real safety in what's familiar, but what's familiar isn't always healthy or supportive.
hmm,
We tend to feel safe and comfortable with what we know, even if it's batshit crazy. So
yeah.
this
We
could
could
be
be
a
addicted to the chaos.
well, but just because we know it, right? Because if I
Exactly.
if I know it, I've survived it, I can live through it, I know how to do it.
Bingo.
Typically, this brings up the uncertainty you brought up before. We're more uncomfortable with that, even if someone might say, "Hey, well, why don't you want to choose that much healthier, better thing over there?" But if that's something I've never done before, I don't actually know if that's true that it is better, right?
Totally.
So I think with Saturn and with Neptune, this sort of both of those planets having to do with our shifting our reality, that there's this sort of shape shifting and things coming apart and undone, and maybe things forming up, but then melting back down again, almost before your eyes. It's like, did I really see that person clearly? What am I actually doing in this? Is this is this the store I want to shop at? Like, I mean, it doesn't have to just be so serious like your primary partner. It's all the
Yeah.
little relationship connections. I know one of the things I have recently done, I may have shared with you guys all before, but I'll say again, that every single thing I was paying money towards, like the charities I was donating towards and any Patreons I was subscribed to, I unsubscribed from every single one, and I am reorienting with what do I actually want to take in? What do I want to put out? What is so to me, this is a very Venusian thing because it's money's involved too. What do I want to spend my
Yeah.
money on? Whose input do I really want? What is actually helping me grow? And then I'm going to decide what I might want to repick up, but from a more intentional place. And so this
Yeah.
that type of thing could be something you find in your own life around this Aries Cancer energy with the Venus and Saturn and Neptune, right? You sometimes
Yeah.
you need to clear your slate to know what you
Oh,
actually choose. Because this is the thing, when you're subscribed to something, it's just easy to keep the subscription. Everybody
yeah.
knows it. So my point here is, what are all the things you've subscribed to, quotes around it if you're not
Yeah,
watching
but you
with it?
don't. Yeah,
Yeah. And make sure you really want to be subscribed.
totally. It's funny because that's what I was telling you. I'm in a very similar boat as you. And I'm like, you know what? We'll wipe it all clean. We'll start from scratch. Because at the end of the day, my values are changing. What is important to me is changing. And what I find important and what I feel like I want to invest my time, energy, or resources on is changing. And what I'm offering is changing because I want to offer more value. I want to offer more resources.
Yep.
And so it's almost like you're getting that reflection in both ways. I think that totally speaks to this Venusian energy. And The other thing I want to say is that I was just looking, I wrote down here on August 1st is the Venus square Saturn and Venus square Neptune. Um, and shortly after, Venus will also have her in conjunct to Pluto. And there's something to this that I think is interesting, because I do feel like you are saying relationships are changing.
Yeah.
And I think, again, this can be romantic, this can be platonic or business or whatever, but I can also see this as my own internal self relationship.
Oh,
How am I relating to me?
yes.
Especially with Saturn Neptune retrograde in Aries.
Yeah.
This could be a whole new internal an internal like revelation of who am I? And again, going back to that new moon in Leo, I think this is a deeper reflection of all of this.
Mhm.
Maybe this is clarity that you've been having. Um, and that could lead to, I know for me, certain people that I was relating to, because I'm now relating with myself differently, is changing. I really don't feel like I click with this person anymore. I really don't feel like I connect with you anymore. Um, just as not, I'm looking for something different. You're not a bad person. I've changed. I'm changing, and I just value things differently, and I want to surround myself more with these types of people. Or I don't want to surround myself with anyone right now. I just would rather be alone for a little bit. Um, and that could totally be a part of this kind of journey that's happening here. Um, with Venus squared Saturn and Neptune. So it's just very interesting when you throw uh Aries and Cancer together, which you and I've talked a lot about. It's your desire to have that sense of independence and autonomy, but also the desire to belong to something,
So
to
hard
feel
to navigate that
comfortable.
space. Yeah.
And it really depends on your early emotional conditioning and how you understood what all of this means. Like, how do you understand what it means to belong? How were you supported? How were you conditioned? How did you receive the emotional support, the safety, the love, the all of that? Um, was it restrictive? What did it hold you back? And now you're like, "Ah, fuck it, I just wanna be free, leave me alone." Um, where is it coming from? So it just depends on, again, that was something I'd be interested in, is kind of like, is this an opportunity for you to reevaluate and look at your childhood? How did I understand what feels safe? Was I safe? Was I so safe I had a helicopter parent? Like, what was the dynamics here? Because this could be a deeper moment of integration for someone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so great, and I think that when, so
Oh, yeah.
Mercury Cazimi in Leo happens on Thursday, July 31st, which since it's in Leo, I'm now calling these like Cazimio, Mercury Cazimio. I'm enjoying the merging of the words
Yes.
together. But I was thinking that all the things you were just mentioning with Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun in Leo, this reconsidering at the heart, reconsidering what's at the center of me, I think aligns beautifully with everything you just said before. And I'm just going to offer, because this has been coming up for me, and so it might for you as well, that it's easy sometimes with this energy to feel like, oh, I think XYZ is not going to be a fit. I have found that sometimes riding the wave for a little bit is great, because sometimes I will think, oh, so and so's not going to be a fit, or this situation is not going to be a fit, or
Yeah.
this hobby's not going to be a fit, or this commitment's not going to be a fit. But sometimes it does this sort of, and I think this maybe speak a little bit to the Neptune energy, where
Yep.
it takes a little bit to reveal. And so sometimes the things that I thought were falling away actually came back around and I saw them in a new light. And the same with some other things that I thought for sure were staying, did this thing
Yeah.
the other way. So I just want to say there's something about giving everything a little bit of spaciousness here, not being too quick to just like chop things off. Because if what we're trying to do is get some clarity, sometimes we have to go through our own versions of breaking down our own illusions or patterns, Ricky, like you were saying. Once I recognize, oh, I've been putting my XYZ childhood patterns on all these things. Once I see it clearly, something can emerge in a
Totally.
more truthful way. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to say that not everything is what it seems with Neptune involved.
Yeah. What's funny is I made a note in my notes and I didn't bring it up because I didn't I it was a thought for myself, was we are dealing with a lot of mutable energy, and knowing that Neptune is also involved in this equation. This is prior to Venus entering Cancer, is this concept of that truth. What is the truth? Because there can be either self-deception in some essence, Or there can be, I don't know, I just, as you're saying this too, I just am feeling this energy of, was I lying to myself? Was I not seeing something for what it was? Is that what was blocking my ability to make these choices? And I think our blessing in this context, having Mars in Virgo,
Mhm.
can give us the capacity to take that deep dive and really break things apart into those little details for us. Um, and I just think, I don't, I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting way to feel into this, that am I being honest with myself with
Mm.
how I'm making my choices and decisions, or how I'm showing up right now. Um, it takes a very brave and courageous person to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, oh, this feels familiar. And I've done this before. And if we're saying that to ourselves, we're not going to ridicule, we're not going to beat ourselves up, but we do need to stop, pause, and reflect, because we need to understand why we're here. Um, because this is the opportunity where evolution can occur, because this is self awareness. And I feel like that's something that these transits are inviting us into, is deeper self awareness, deeper self knowing. And as long as we're being very honest with ourselves. And like you said, Neptune has a funny way of making us think something, making us see something that looks real good through the window. And then we realize the windows were tinted and we're like, oh shit. We're like, this is not what I thought it was. Or like, oh, it's like that idea of like, when you're dating someone, the lights are off and then you turn them on, you're like, oh, this is not what I thought. That's Neptune.
Beware dark spaces. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding. No, I just there's agreed, and I would say for me, one of the main reasons why I practice astrology at all is for self-awareness. Like it's beyond
totally.
just this season for me. That is that in connection with the ordering nature or the ordered nature or the natural movements, the natural energy of
Yeah.
the universe. Like to me, those are that's why I do this work. And one thing that you were talking about, what I heard, you didn't use this word, but I would say Venus has a lot to do with syncing, right? With Venus, we like to sync up with people, sync up with music,
Yeah.
sync up. It makes us feel like we're connected. And so one of the questions we could ask ourselves during this season is where am I feeling? Where is something out of sync?
Ooh, yeah.
Right? And so, and that may be, I may be at like my current view of myself might be out of sync with an old way I used to be. I could be out of sync with Ricky in this podcast we're doing together,
Yeah.
right? Video we're doing together. I'm saying so there's lots of different ways, but I think to paying attention to what might feel out of sync and what feels in sync
It's,
is some nice ways to be led towards the
yeah.
thing to pay attention to. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why the moment you just said that, I don't know why you said that. I heard bye bye bye. By NSYNC. I don't know. So maybe it's time to say bye 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 to
Maybe
something.
it's time for you to say bye bye bye.
But
Maybe we're gonna end this video now. That's what
yeah,
it's all about. Yeah.
that was
So
funny.
good. So good. But no, I really like there's been something too. I mean, I have been very sensitive to this myself of
Totally.
of feeling in sync number one with myself, but I feel like if I'm in sync with myself or you're in sync with yourself, that has to be a bigger collective thing. It's being in sync with life itself, which to me is
Totally.
the heart of Venus. It's not just our relationship with other, although that's part of it, it's our relationship with life. So,
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of Venus and Mars activity going on, but I feel like, Ricky, unless you disagree, that we've talked through a lot of, the different
Totally.
ways that that energy can come up. I think we may, because some of these are quincunxes, some of them are oppositions, some of them are trines. We may feel
Yeah.
all of a sudden inflow. I'm going to say in the same day, we might all of a sudden feel, whoa, that
Yeah.
feels out of flow. And I think the more we can just recognize that all of those are opportunities to check in with where we're synced up and if that is in sync, that can be helpful. So,
Totally.
should we talk about full moon briefly on
Yeah.
Saturday, August the 9th?
Yeah, totally. And coming into this full moon, Mars just entered Libra a couple of
Oh
days
yeah,
before.
on the 6th.
And so this full moon is interesting. I have 3:55 a.m. Eastern time, which I believe would be 12 your time. Is that
Yeah.
correct? 12
Yeah.
a.m. your time, 12:55 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
Um, and on this full moon, something that's really interesting is there really isn't a ton of transits that are around this full moon. Most prominently, I would say, is that Mars and Libra will have its opposition with Neptune and Saturn in Aries.
Mhm.
Um, and it's an interesting full moon for me because I feel like we've had so much Mars activation coming into this full moon. Like we said earlier, um, Mars and Venus have been active. This Mars is now ruled by Venus coming into this full moon. Um, and something I would want to bring to the table, and this is a word that you and I were talking about before, is this word discord.
Mhm.
And I'm curious about the noise that's around this full moon, the noise, the discord that's happening. Again, it's similar to the idea of a distraction, but this is a different discord is different for me than distractions. And so what I look at is, when we deal with Libra energy coming into the equation, it's always about trying to create. It's not about having harmony, it's wanting to create harmony. And so when I say the word discord, that is what exists when harmony does not. And so there's something about this that feels like, is this the opportunity for us to really measure our scales, hypothetically speaking, and ask ourselves, where am I at right now in my life? Is my life feeling like I'm balanced? Like, am I really feeling like I'm grounded? Like, I feel like I'm not self-sabotaging, I'm not self-sacrificing, I'm not in a position where I'm giving too much about myself. Because I find sometimes when we're dealing with Aquarius energy like this in the full moon, I could sometimes see how we can compromise. And when I say compromise, I'm talking about compromising us, our identity, our individuality. There can be some level of conformity to this. And having having air energy in general, there's a lot of air in this full moon. You have the moon is in Aquarius, right? And Mars is in Libra. And there's something about this that we could be so perceptive to others that are we perceptive to ourselves. And I think that's where Saturn and Neptune are coming into the equation in the opposition, which is like it's great, I feel, uh for us to be thinking about others, but I just am getting the same theme, which is like coming back to ourselves. There's something about this that in order for us, I feel, to do the greatest work that we came here to do for others, we really need to make sure we're deeply connected to ourselves, our integrity, like really being connected to that. And so just to lean into it, I'm just feeling into this idea of like, are we potentially overdoing it for others? Are we potentially becoming or taking on the expectations or perceptions of others at the expense of ourselves?
Ricky, it's interesting because the traditional ruler of this full moon is Saturn, and Saturn is opposing Mars. I think this lends itself to what you were just describing, right? And we could think of with, Saturn energy, to me, oftentimes there's something we need to set a different boundary. We need to see a different limit, right? We need to sort of recognize what's there. And so opposing Mars, Mars has a lot to do with the personal self and our drive and our
Yeah.
will. But I think this is not about making it less. I think about this is more about being clear. It brings me kind of back to that differentiation that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Also, because there are no aspects, at least not ones that we're considering to be enough to rise to the surface of paying attention to the luminaries, to the sun or the moon at this full moon time, it
Yeah.
made me think of with that discord and harmony, if there's less aspects, there's less voices, there's less interference. We could perhaps tune ourselves or get attuned to ourselves if we would allow that space, or perhaps we might even say that quiet to
Mm,
do it. I was feeling something about this full moon and I couldn't quite find the words for it. I think I shared with you before we started recording that it felt contained, but I said that
yeah.
didn't quite feel right. But now I'm
No.
realizing that contained in the sense that I think I actually literally could hear or feel or see myself because there are less distractions. It's like there's the full moon, there's the luminaries, but there's not all the fray. There's
No.
not all the fray. So what if there's something, if there is discord, if there is something out of sync, you could more easily.
100%.
Yes, like what is your resonance? It makes me even feel like, and that sort of brings back kind of the heart of things too with the Leo part of this
Yeah.
equation, right? Because of course the sun's in Leo if the moon's in Aquarius. That's, that's the
Yeah.
position. So this sort of from the center of me in balance sort of with the whole universe around me, we really, if we lose ourselves too much in everybody else and what they need, which a lot of people in my practice do, I always like to remind myself that we really don't have as much to offer externally
Right.
if we're not in touch internally. And there is no way around that. There's no external solution to that. So
No.
I'm calling this full moon self reattunement. That's why, and I'm thinking,
Ooh, I
yeah.
like that. You know what's really cool is you don't even know the gene keys of this one, and that you
Oh,
just described the gene key relationship so perfectly.
oh, good. Well,
Um,
can you enlighten
this
us
is
now?
this is gene key 13. And gene key 13 is the shadow of discord, and that is caused by not listening.
Oh,
And we're talking about no longer feeling the need to fix, no longer needing to feel the desire to solve the problems or run away from the problems. This is allowing for us to be with what is, to be the witnesser, to look at it all for what it is and listen to it, to what is happening. And the actual gift is discernment.
mm,
And that is kind of what you were, I feel,
yeah.
tapping into, is this ability to discern. Now, why do we do that in Gene Key 13? Is we're able to discern the universal messages. We're able to observe and become the witness to the wisdom that is hidden from within, the stories, the patterns, whatever it may be. And it's not only from your psyche, but it's from the collective psyche in Aquarius. And why do we do this? It's because then we could then become the vessel to help heal humanity. And so this specific axis that we're on, truly the heightened potential of this is to become a healer for humanity. But the only way to do that is to become a conduit that is clear enough to receive those codes, those downloads to become that. But if we are so consumed to fixing and needing and solving and escaping and doing all of this mundane things, we become mentally attached, that we cannot receive those codings, those messages. And the modern ruler, or we say the dual ruler, I think we said dual rulers.
Yeah.
With Uranus, this makes so much sense.
Mhm.
Because what Uranus is asking for us at some level is if we can allow ourselves to be free enough to receive those frequencies, to receive those vibrations, to receive those truths, those unconditioned truths, deconditioned, unconditioned.
Yeah. And
You can receive that and become that, whatever that means to you.
we're not being asked to do everything. We're being asked to play our note.
Yeah,
And if
exactly.
I, and I'm saying this to myself, probably more than to anybody else right now, but just because I'm in that space, but like I am, and maybe some of you are too, figuring out more truly what is my natural note. And when I
Yeah,
more know my natural note, I know better when it's time for me to play my note. And I think this lunation and all the things you just shared, Ricky, thank you, are so beautiful and encouraging us to not forget how important that is. So whatever time we might need that we can give ourselves, sometimes we have to step away from things. Sometimes we need more quiet. Sometimes we need to not have input for a while. Sometimes we might need to take
totally,
a little journey if that's what it takes to reconnect. But I'm telling
totally.
you, it's this came up again and something else I'm taking, but in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a certain point where Krishna's saying to Arjuna, it is better to do your work, even if you can't do it so well, than to do someone else's work perfectly. We're here to be ourselves.
Hmm.
And it's frustrating sometimes because I think we either feel like we're supposed to do everything or it's supposed to meet a certain measure. And so there's something about the beauty of Aquarius that allows enough objectivity
Yep,
kind of let go. You were talking about the attachments and say, no, my job is really just to get clear on my note. I'm calling it. What is my note? So I
I
can
love
then
that.
be part of like the song of the universe or whatever.
Yes, the
To
Grand
me, like,
Symphony.
yeah. because otherwise, here's me over here, like I'm trying to be 10 million
Yeah.
instruments, and no, Tara, please just be the piccolo. You know what I mean? Like it's like,
Whatever you're good at, whatever that instrument is, whatever that
yeah,
note is that you get to
yeah,
play, because that's what your
yeah.
gift is, right?
And you're not
Um,
doing it by yourself. We are part. This is the other reminder to me of Aquarius and the star card in the tarot, which goes along with Aquarius, is why, in the David deck, it's my favorite, I think, rendition of this card because it has all those little silver threads from the person to all the planets and everything in the cosmos.
100%.
You're not doing it by yourself. You only need to do your part, and your doing your part is what helps everyone else do their part. So,
Billion percent.
yeah, I mean,
I
if
think that speaks to this full moon deeply. Especially with, like I said, that Mars and Libra opposing Neptune and Saturn. And I think it's a beautiful
yes,
fusion um of energy. And yeah, I don't know. And then it just reminds me again with Venus is still in Cancer. So that Mars is responding to Venus in Cancer.
yeah,
She still has the whip here.
yeah.
Um, and so, you know, leaning into those squishy parts of ourselves and allowing us to find the soft spots of us. And I don't know, I think this could be an exciting opportunity for individuals that are allowing themselves to attune
Yeah.
to this frequency.
And
Could be game changing.
and if shit goes sideways, which shit does, and these times are not easy times, that none of that, in my opinion, gets in the way of doing the things we just talked about. We can
Yeah,
do that in anything going on. In fact, sometimes
exactly.
where you find that resonance or that attunement is in the most
Yeah,
wacky, crazy times. Sometimes that's the first time you hear your own note ring true. And so,
100%. Yeah, on that, I just want to say I did an interview with a yoga teacher, um, because her and I were talking about Kriya, which is the type of yoga, and I asked her a question about the practice itself, and she said, "I feel as if we've misunderstood yoga." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said that the the practice of yoga is actually not done on a mat; it's done in the world.
true. So
And
true.
when she said that, I loved her explanation, and that's exactly what I'm feeling with you. Is
Mm.
that really the greatest opportunity comes in the world experience? Whatever that may be, what may feel is difficult and challenging, we appreciate those difficulties, those challenges, because those difficulties and those challenges, and I know they're painful and I know they hurt, but there is a deeper undertone of a why, there is something there. There's a rhythm that's unfolding for us.
And
That's hard. That's
you
hard to sit with sometimes.
you just articulated, you said Venus and Cancer still holding the whip. And that's a funny thing to say for how soft and tender this moment is, but you just brought us right back there because how would Venus and Cancer do it?
Mhm,
Real human, real moment, real feelings. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like that's one of the gifts of that Venus and Cancer energy. It's to be human.
totally. Yeah.
And
What
it's
and what does that mean to be human and live that and
yeah.
embody that? Um, and the gift of this full moon or the city, I'm so sorry, is tied to empathy. It's the city of empathy, by the way.
Mm,
And I love the word empathy because empathy is so much. I don't I feel like today there's a lot of words that exist that I really don't like how we describe them because I feel like
I agree.
it's gotten muddied. And I think the word empathy, I've heard a lot of people, I'm an empath and this is me. And I was like, well, I
Yep.
think we're really, I don't know if we understand fully what's going on, but there's something about total empathy, which is almost like being in harmony and cosmic alignment with the larger emotional experience of this human life. Um, and becoming love, becoming compassion. And I feel like that speaks to Venus and Cancer as well. So,
It does. And that reminds me, speaking of words that I don't like how we use them,
yeah,
I've been playing around with this in my classes, the word selfish, right? If you look that up
yes,
in the dictionary, it will say, someone overly concerned with themselves or conceited or whatnot. But what's interesting is anything else we put an ish on, like if we say that's a reddish jacket Ricky's wearing, that just means it's like red.
yeah,
I am now embracing the idea that selfish just means like myself. And I think for Leo season, that might be a nice way to sort of recontextualize or re-understand
That part,
that
totally.
that we want to be more like ourselves. I think it's interesting how we have decided that that word somehow we would make it become something negative. So it was something I've been playing around with. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that, so I just want to add a comment to, I think a big part in all of that ties to our desire, the collective, there's a shadow frequency associated with, if we make selfishness seem negative, if we make selfishness
Yeah.
seem bad, what we
Yeah.
create is codependency. We create we create a pattern for people that we become dependent because we put everyone else, like, there's this,
Yeah.
it really switches our psychology around. And there's a shadow frequency in the gene keys that talks all about this, about the shadow of codependency.
Mm.
And why do we become codependent? And I feel like, why do these things happen? And I love this because I think selfishness, I always say, like, enlightened self-interest is such a gift. And when you learn to follow your own self-interest in an enlightened way, the greatest work you could ever do is focus on yourself. Because when you focus on yourself, you can then help others.
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny you bring up codependency while Mars is in Libra because Libra is
I
one of
know.
the, well,
I
and Venus is in Cancer, and I would say Cancer and Libra are two of the signs that most lean towards codependency. So again, even whatever these things we're bringing up, however those stories live, in you, it just might be a good time to like hang out with them a little bit. Do you want to
yeah.
talk at all about, so Mercury will turn direct on Monday, August 11th. Also,
Yep.
Saturn will sextile Uranus that day.
Yeah.
And that's been going, so that doesn't happen very often. I
No.
last time, so when it does, we have kind of like a long window. So basically that Saturn sextile Uranus has been going on since April of this year, will continue into January 2026. But I only want to just like touch on it briefly, because I know we've already used a lot of time here. But there's a lot of progress possible with that energy. Like there is something about totally revolutionizing, renegotiating the standards, the rules, the norms, the way we do things personally and collectively. And I
Yeah.
just think it's interesting that it comes kind of right in this space of, while we've had this big talk about all this sort of going in and all this pieces, that I almost feels like there's like this Mercury turns direct, and then we have this Saturn sextile Uranus, and it's almost like you get some forward momentum. You could,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity. Sextiles, I sometimes call sextiles sexy sextiles because I feel like there's like just enough friction in a good way to like
Yeah.
want to move forward. And so
Totally.
both Saturn and Uranus to me have to do with progress, both of them in their own way. So I don't know if you have any thoughts or feelings around that one for everybody.
Yeah. Just the end of the season in general,
Yeah.
the aspects that we're going to go through have that sexy vibe to them, that the
Yeah.
sexy sextiles.
Yeah.
So the energy does change, I think, when Mercury goes direct.
Hmm.
Now, that Saturn Uranus, which is interesting for me, something that I will just comment on now is, it almost feels like you were getting into like that idea of something revolutionary happening. It's funny because Saturn so bad wants to create structure for itself, and Uranus wants to create something that's new, or wants to do something that's innovative. And what we really could be getting out of all of this is that there could be ideas, whether it's for your own personal life or work or whatever it may be, that may be new for you, that could create new structures for you, that could create something new in your life. That it's very advantageous. Like, any ideas that are coming around this time period, I'm just imagining someone has a business idea. I would really lean into what these ideas could be, because I feel like this could be an opportunity for us to actually do something different for ourselves that could actually sustain in time. Like, it almost feels like this could be an opportunity to build something for your future that's actually pressing the limits of what you thought was possible. Like, there's something about this that could be very fun to lean into. Um, I also think it's unique because Mercury is the lower octave of Uranus and it's stationing direct on this day. Is this a creative idea that's coming to the table, that you're finally receiving the download for something? Or is this the day that you finally launch something? Like, is this the day that you're like, you know what, this is the day I'm going to put this out into the world and I'm going to start marketing? It's just an interesting day for us to potentially really build something for our future, but in a new and exciting way. Like, there could be something very, very cool about this that comes out of it. Um, It'll be interesting because the whole season we've had those ups and downs with Venus and Mars. Collectively, at a societal level, at a country level, at a world level, this will be an interesting transit. It'll
Mm.
be interesting to see if anything's happening around this time in the world. Um, shortly thereafter, Venus conjuncts Jupiter,
Yes.
um,
Yep.
which is interesting. Which I was going to ask you if you feel like that is a topic that deserves its own conversation. Venus conjunct Jupiter, because I feel like there's a lot that we can get into with that one too.
There is, yeah, we could definitely consider. There's something about that day, though, with all three of these things,
Yes.
Mercury direct, and then Saturn sextile Uranus, and then Venus conjunct Jupiter, that I do get the feeling that something could be shifting into gear. And
Yeah.
so I know you articulated it, but there's something that's an awful lot of stuff in one, I don't know, in one day. So yes, I'm totally open to more of a
Yeah.
conversation about it. I
Mars trines Pluto the day before as well, which I think is interesting.
yes.
So you kind of still get that energy coming into it's an interesting sequence coming into the 11th. Um and again, could feel very progressive that day. Could feel very much like something is taking off. This could be again, this could show up in different ways. Look at where this shows up in your chart. Look at where Cancer's in your chart. Look where Gemini's in your chart. Look where Aries is in your chart.
Yeah.
Um there's just a lot going on in this area right now.
In addition, so progress, okay, so yes, so progress forward, yes, but I'm going to also offer that you might also, that also might be a day where you recognize you've left something behind. And I mean that in a really exciting way.
Yeah,
Like it could be those times like you have something, I don't know, something that would normally be really difficult for you happen, and then sometime afterwards you're like, oh my God, I did not handle that the way I would have before at all. Something's totally shifted. I think because especially with the Pluto trine Mars the day before, but there's something about um the progress might, you might not see it happening forward yet. You might
yeah,
instead experience that you did something different, or that something that you used to be attached to, you weren't attached to in the same way. And that I think is a launching point, into the next thing to come.
100%. Because then the way that you're going to make decisions and choices, the way that you're going to handle things, the
Yes.
what you desire is all shifting because of this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would definitely not expect like crazy rainbows happen like in that way because, like you said, it could take time, but there's magic to this day.
Yeah.
It's
And
interesting. It'd be interesting. I would definitely have a journal by my side on this day. Um for ideas that are coming through. I mean, since the full moon, I would have a journal by your bedside or your phone, your notes if you have ideas that are coming to you, whatever it may be. I don't think anything's random. I think there's a lot of uniqueness that can be happening around this time.
well, and then to your point, it's about whether or not we pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So,
Is it
and
too
especially,
noisy?
yeah, and with Uranus and Gemini, symbols and signs would be, and omens, we might call them more noticeable.
A
So,
100%. Yeah.
Saturn, and then Saturn sextile that Uranus can help bring the reality of it. So it's almost like the sign or the symbol or the omen, all of a sudden I can see it in my everyday life. So I think the paying
Yeah.
attention is good. The other thing I wanted to mention, just as the close for the season, on Tuesday, August 19th, Sun trines Chiron.
Yeah.
And I like that for sort of, it feels like there could be an ease. It feels like if we were willing to come into a new place with ourselves, to be illuminated kind of from the inside out, to more know our own key or our own note, these words we've been using,
Yeah.
that this could be this new beautiful flow with our own energy, and not just in the traditional sense of Chiron can be healing, but Chiron's also very much opens up the heart, opens up emotions, open up flow in general. And you mentioned empathy, and I think Chiron, is also a witness, one who's able to have presence, one who is touchable,
Yeah.
one who does not need to be healed, but can be moving through a healing process and then sharing that with others. So there's something about there being a natural, beautiful flow with our own energy that I thought was a nice sort of wrap up to the season.
Totally. I think it's a soothing energy. I like the word touchable.
Mm.
That's going to lead us to the door of Virgo season and eclipse season. And so I think it's a really nice handoff to what's to come. Um, because we are preparing for a really big Virgo season. So I think it's a really beautiful way to bring what could have felt like a little bit of a stop go, or a little bit of like, "Ooh, this is a little rough. Ooh, this feels good. Ooh, this is a little rough. Ooh, this feels good." Um, type of month. This could bring some sort of total. I don't know. I feel like it could help us awaken maybe to that Leonian self that we have inside of us, or wherever that rock star is in our chart, wherever that shows up for us. It could be
I
that
think
opportunity for us to embrace it, or put those shoes on, or feel comfortable in those shoes. Um, and like you said, it's living it. Even if you're not healed, doesn't mean you still can't embody it. It doesn't mean you still can't be that person,
yeah.
and say, "Hey, I know what this feels like because I'm going through it too."
Yeah. And it's and none of these things are about it's not about reaching an endpoint, right? It's
No,
and that's I think the thing we have this idea that well when I learn this thing or when I do this or when I fix this we have all these stories and I'm going to say yes there are some things that we can take steps and that we can reach an endpoint but most of these things we're talking about are it's a process and so
yeah,
Chiron is really about coming alongside each other in a process to go move with each other through territory that sometimes can be difficult, but also can be beautiful in the sense of, having space to really, it's in Aries, right? So to have the courage to show up as myself in that vulnerable space
hmm
is a real gift. And I would say this also, I'm just going to say, because I want to play the other side, this also could show up as a trine that brings a inflated amount of confidence or courage. And so we always want to pay attention to, again, what is the real motivation, right? Where is this really coming
yeah,
from? No.
totally. I could totally see that with Mars and Libra as well. By the way, Mars ruling this whole thing. Um, Mars and Libra is a tricky placement. You always want to be careful with that one. In that context, because you may feel like you're feeling good, you're looking good, you're feeling cute, so you want to go date as many people as possible. And there could be consequences to certain things where you feel like your confidence is up here. Oops, sorry, up here, and you have such high confidence, and you're breaking the ceiling. Um, and there can be a reality check to that. There can be some sort of consequence to those unhealthy sense of selves, especially in Leo. Like you said, I think that's important to recognize.
And Libra, to your point, Mars and Libra, I oftentimes find to be a sign of extremes. So what you just described was the big swings, which I know we
Yeah,
oftentimes don't think about with Libra, but
yeah,
it is the sign that rules polarity. It's all
totally.
about extremes.
Totally.
So again,
Mars and Libra, interesting placement. As whenever you see Mars and Libra, I always say this to people: talk about the relationships in their life. Talk about the relationships. Get to know them a little bit. Get to know their dating style. It's very interesting. It's an interesting story.
which might wrap us back up to if we ask ourselves these questions, hey, what is actually my own style? I kind of like that for a stopping place, which is like, really, what is my own style? And am I living and being it? And I think that's a nice way to think
Yeah,
about this trine with the ruler of Chiron being Mars in Libra.
yeah,
And do I give myself permission to have my own style and be my own style? Yeah.
yeah. I totally. What is your template? I agree 100%.
What's your template? What's your color palette? Yeah.
What's your dating template? What does it look
Right.
like?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, anything else, Ricky, you can think of? That's I'm
Uh, I think I again for such an extra I would say for a sign in which we'd often say, like, let's roll out the red carpet, and we're gonna walk this red carpet and have a fashion show or have a concert. I feel like it's time to explore our own inner fashion show and find the different colors inside of us. It feels like there's a lot of internalization opportunities with this Leo season. And I often say with Leo, it's a lot about the solar plexus, and it
Mhm.
connects to our sacral. And so this is a great time to do some sacral and solar plexus work, working on our self-esteem, working on our self-confidence, and accessing those parts of ourselves where we don't feel as secure within ourselves, or where we feel like, I don't feel like my esteem is there yet. Like, working on those things. And how is, where are you procrastinating what you know you could be doing?
Yeah.
And if you're procrastinating something, that is where your solar plexus or your Leo energy shut down, because Leo wants to show up. And
Mhm.
so allow yourself to show up where this is coming up. But maybe first we need to do some inside stuff first. And that's what I
Yeah.
think a big part of this season's about.
Yeah, you might need to first spend a lot of time with procrastination,
Yeah.
right? Go like seriously, roll out the red carpet all the way to
Yeah.
procrastination and
Go
let's
on a date.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Figure out what's going on. And
yeah,
it's fascinating. It's so funny because anyone I talk to that I connect with procrastination and we talk about it, there's a deep knowingness. So like I know. But what's happening is there's a threshold that you need to cross, that you need to be brave enough and courageous enough to look at. And I think that's what this season is going to push us to do. With Pluto coming up the way it does this season, I think it's going to give us the opportunity to expose that threshold, to be like, oh, this is what this is. Got it. Okay. Can I sit there long enough to allow myself to uncover this and replace it or hug it or whatever that looks like to you? Whatever the healing journey looks like.
yeah. Yep.
So,
So everybody's dancing. The question is just
yes,
with who and where and on what time and what step, right? Yeah.
that's right. Exactly. Yes. So, thank you. I was awesome. I love it. I think it'll be a good season. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a good season for us. So,
Thank you everybody for being here with us. Yep. Thank
thank
you,
you.
Ricky. We'll see you
Yes.
all soon.